I'm sorry. I've been very nice to you, although I could probably maybe not be based on the way you have treated me, but I wouldn't do that.
You know, there's something strange about losing. Most people hate it. Nobody wakes up and says, "Hey, I'd love to fail today." But sometimes, losing a battle is the best thing that could ever happen to you. It hurts. It's embarrassing. It shakes your confidence. But it also clears your vision. It forces you to stop, to think, and to change your strategy. That's what Donald Trump once said. Sometimes by losing a battle, you find a new way to win the war. And if there's one thing he knows about, it's battles. Business battles, media wars, political wars. Imagine this. It's the 1980s, New York City. The skyline is rising, deal after deal, tower after tower. Trump is young, bold, confident, and hungry. Everything he touches seems to turn to gold. The press loves him. The banks trust him. He's the golden boy of real estate. But then, the battle changes. The early 1990s hit hard. Real estate crashes. The market turns cold. Suddenly the empire starts to shake. Loans come due. The casinos in Atlantic City aren't performing. The headlines turn nasty. Trump, the symbol of success, becomes the poster child for overreach. That was a battle lost, no question. But here's the thing. He didn't quit. He didn't hide. He renegotiated, rebuilt, and rebranded. He took the losses and turned them into leverage. He said later that it taught him more than success ever did, because losing makes you pay attention. It humbles you, but it also sharpens you. And that's where the quote really lives. Not in victory, but in the comeback. Sometimes you can't see the bigger picture when you're winning. Winning can make you lazy. It can make you think you've figured it all out. But losing forces innovation. It's the moment where you stop playing the same game and start inventing a new one. This story isn't just about Trump. It's about anyone who's ever faced a loss and thought it was the end, when really it was the beginning of something else. Think about every major success story in America. Thomas Edison failed hundreds of times before the light bulb worked. Steve Jobs was fired from his own company before he came back to make Apple what it is today. Oprah Winfrey was told she wasn't fit for television. Every single one of them lost a battle, and that's exactly how they found the key to winning the war. Losing isn't final unless you decide it is. That's the difference between those who fade and those who rise again. Trump learned that in the toughest way possible. When the money was gone, when the media turned, when people laughed, he doubled down on what he believed, that he could build, that he could brand, that he could come back stronger. That kind of belief isn't about arrogance. It's about refusing to let defeat define you. It's about saying, okay, that plan failed. Time for a new one. So here's the lesson for you and me. When you lose, don't ask, why me? Ask, what now? Because maybe that setback isn't a dead end. Maybe it's just a detour. Maybe the war you're supposed to win is bigger than the battle you just lost. That's the spirit of America, isn't it? We fall, we rebuild, and we rise higher. And that's where our story begins. When you're in the middle of a storm, it's hard to see anything clearly. You just want out. You want it to stop. You want things to go back to how they were before everything started falling apart. That's how it felt for Trump in the early 1990s. Everything that once seemed unstoppable suddenly hit a wall. Banks were calling. Projects were frozen. The media couldn't get enough of the story. The fall of the real estate king. Most people would have disappeared. They would have walked away, blamed the economy, gone quiet. But Trump didn't do that. He did something that most people don't even think about when they're losing. He used his losses. He turned them into leverage. He walked into those meetings with bankers and said, "You can take it all if you want, but if you do, you'll lose more than I will." He knew something that most people forget. Perception is power. Even when you're down, if people believe you still have value, that belief can change everything. And that's exactly what he did. He made people believe that he was still worth betting on. He made losing look like a strategic move. And slowly, deal by deal, headline by headline, he built himself back up. Now this isn't just about business. This is about mindset. Most of us face our own versions of those meetings. Maybe it's a job interview after being fired. Maybe it's a relationship that fell apart. Maybe it's a dream that didn't work out. The question is, do you let that loss define you? Or do you use it as a reason to push harder? Here's something most successful people understand. Loss creates urgency. It forces focus. When you've got nothing left to lose, you stop worrying about opinions and start thinking about action. Trump didn't worry about what people were saying. He didn't try to fix every headline. He focused on the next move. That's leverage, using what you have left, no matter how small, to create something new. You don't need to have millions to think like that. You just need to shift your perspective. If something didn't work, what did you learn? What can you use from that experience to make your next step smarter, faster, stronger? Every battle lost is like a classroom. Painful, yes, but also powerful. You can't buy that kind of lesson. You earn it through the hits you take. And when you've been through enough of those, you stop being scared of losing, because you realize losing isn't the opposite of winning. It's part of winning. It's the training ground. So, the next time you find yourself staring at a closed door, remember this. Maybe that door wasn't supposed to open. Maybe there's another one waiting, and the only reason you'll ever find it is because this one shut you out. That's what Trump understood when everyone thought he was done. He didn't see the end of an empire. He saw a new chapter. He found a new way to win. He started licensing his name instead of building everything himself. That one idea, using the Trump brand as a product, changed everything. Suddenly, his name was on buildings he didn't even own. It became a symbol of success, luxury, and resilience. That's leverage. Not letting the past trap you, but turning it into something that fuels your future. And here's the takeaway. When life knocks you down, don't waste energy fighting the ground. Look around. There might be a new path right there at your feet, one you never would have noticed if you hadn't fallen. Sometimes you win not by fighting harder, but by thinking smarter. That's how you turn loss into leverage. Reinvention. It's a word that sounds clean, like a fresh coat of paint. But the truth is, reinvention is messy. It doesn't happen when everything's going right. It happens when you're backed into a corner, when the old version of you just doesn't work anymore. That's what happened with Trump in the years after the crash. The old strategy, building huge projects, borrowing massive amounts, relying on the banks, it wasn't working. The world had changed, and he had to change with it. Now, most people resist change. We love the familiar, even when it's not serving us. But reinvention doesn't ask for your permission. It demands it. If you want to survive, you adapt. If you want to win, you evolve. Trump realized he didn't have to build everything himself anymore. He could build a brand. He could license his name, his image, his reputation. Instead of owning every building, he could make every building own a piece of his name. That idea wasn't just business. It was transformation. It turned him from a developer into a global symbol. From a real estate mogul into a brand that stood for success, or at least the appearance of success. And that's the power of perception. When you lose, people stop believing in you. So, your first job is to remind them, and yourself, of who you are. Not the version that failed, but the version that can rise again. That's the heart of reinvention. It's not pretending the loss didn't happen. It's saying, yeah, I fell, but I'm not staying down. Reinvention is honest. It forces you to look in the mirror and admit that what worked before doesn't work now. It's hard, it's humbling, but it's also freeing. You get to rewrite your story. Trump could have kept chasing the same old model, hoping the market would bounce back. Instead, he created something new, The Apprentice, a TV show that didn't just entertain people, it reshaped his image completely. Suddenly, millions saw him as the boss again, confident, decisive, in control. That's the thing about reinvention. It's not just about changing your strategy. It's about changing your story. You can do the same thing in your life. Maybe your business failed. Maybe your plan didn't work. Maybe your dream fell apart. Fine. That's part one. But what's part two? Who are you now? Don't let your old identity trap you. You're not who you were before the fall. You're smarter now, stronger. You've got experience you didn't have before. That's your edge. Reinvention means using what's left to build what's next. And it doesn't have to be dramatic. It can be as simple as changing how you think, asking different questions, surrounding yourself with people who see what you can be, not just what you were. Sometimes you've got to walk away from the old version of yourself, even if it hurts. Because staying the same when the world is changing, that's the real loss. Trump reinvented himself more than once. from real estate mogul to reality TV star, from businessman to politician. Whether you agree with him or not, you can't deny the pattern. Every time he lost a battle, he built a new version of himself that could win the next one. That's the bigger message here. Reinvention is the ultimate comeback. You don't need to erase your past to build your future. You just need to learn from it, use it, and let it fuel your next chapter. Because in the end, it's not about the battles you lose, it's about the war you keep fighting. Every great comeback starts with one decision. I'm not staying down. It sounds simple, but it's the hardest thing to do. When you're flat on your back, when everyone's written you off, when even your friends start saying maybe it's time to quit, that's when your real character shows up. Trump knows that feeling. He's been counted out more times than most people can imagine. In business, in politics, even in the public eye. But every single time, he found a way to stand up again. That's what separates people who make it from people who don't. Not talent, not luck, not even intelligence. It's resilience. Resilience is that quiet voice that says, okay, this hurts, but it's not over. When the casinos were bleeding money, when the headlines mocked him, when the banks were circling, Trump didn't pack it in. He told himself, this is temporary. That mindset, that belief that the story isn't finished yet, is what keeps winners moving when everyone else stops. And here's the truth. Nobody comes back by accident. A comeback is a plan. It's a mindset. It's waking up every day and doing one more thing, taking one more step, trying one more time, even when you don't feel like it, especially when you don't feel like it. You can't fake that kind of drive. It's built through pain, through rejection, through failure. That's why losses matter. They train you for the comeback. Most people think of success as a straight line. You start here, you climb up, and that's it. But in reality, it's more like a heart monitor. Up, down, up, down. As long as you're still moving, you're alive. The only time it goes flat, that's when the game's really over. The comeback mindset isn't about ignoring failure. It's about embracing it, studying it, learning from it, asking, what can I do better next time? When Trump turned his setbacks into comebacks, it wasn't magic. It was stubborn belief. It was the refusal to accept the idea that he was done. And that's a lesson anyone can take. Business owner, student, athlete, parent, dreamer. Because life doesn't care how many times you fall. It only cares if you get back up. People love a comeback story. America loves it because it's built into who we are. We're a nation of second chances. From the frontier days to Silicon Valley, we've built our culture on the idea that failure isn't final. That's why stories like this resonate, because they remind us that we all have more power than we think. The comeback mindset is built on 3 beliefs. First, you control your reaction. You can't control the loss, but you can control what you do next. Second, you're never really starting from zero. You're starting from experience. And third, as long as you're still trying, you haven't lost. Trump lived that. He kept moving, kept promoting, kept building. Even when people laughed, he stayed visible. That's strategy. Visibility is power. If you disappear, the world forgets you. If you stay present, you keep a seat at the table. That's the mindset of a fighter. Stay in the arena, even when you're bruised. And the truth is, most wars aren't won by the strongest or the smartest. They're won by the ones who simply refuse to give up. You might lose 10 battles. You might get knocked down 100 times. But if you get up 101, you win. That's what this quote is all about. Sometimes by losing a battle, you find a new way to win the war. Because the war isn't about beating others, it's about beating doubt. It's about refusing to let fear, failure, or fatigue decide your future. So if you're down right now, if life's hit you hard, take a breath. Look up. Remember, this isn't the end of your story. It's just the middle. And the middle is where comebacks begin. Here's the thing about winning. It's not always what you think it is. People talk about victory like it's a finish line, a moment where the crowd cheers, the cameras flash, and the world knows your name. But real winning isn't a single moment. It's what happens after the noise fades. Trump's story, like many others, proves that success isn't just about money or fame. It's about survival, about staying in the game long enough to shape your own ending. When he lost big, when the banks took the jets, when the towers went quiet, when the press said he was finished, he didn't disappear. He redefined what winning meant to him. Winning stopped being about never losing. It became about never quitting. That's a mindset shift that changes everything. Because when you measure your worth only by your wins, one bad day can destroy you. But when you measure it by your resilience, by how many times you stand up again, you can't really lose. The war Trump was fighting wasn't just financial. It was personal. It was about proving to himself and to the world that he could rise from the ashes. And whether you admire him or not, there's a powerful truth in that. Everyone fights their own version of that war. You might not be building towers, but you're building something. A career, a dream, a family, a better version of yourself. And life will throw battles at you. Some you'll win, some you'll lose. But the war, your war, is about staying in motion. Because when you lose a battle, it doesn't mean you're losing the war. It just means the universe is rerouting you. It's teaching you something that success never could. Every loss gives you a choice, to break down or to break through. When Trump rebuilt, he didn't just rebuild the same empire, he built a new one. Real estate led to television. Television led to politics. Each chapter came from the ashes of the last. That's what real winners do. They evolve. And that's what you can do too. You can take that rejection letter, that failed launch, that heartbreak, and turn it into fuel. You can take the version of yourself that lost and let it teach you how to win differently. Because sometimes the victory isn't in getting what you wanted. It's in discovering what you needed. Winning the war doesn't always mean walking away with trophies or titles. Sometimes it means peace, confidence, freedom. The quiet strength that says, I made it through. Look around at the people who inspire you, the ones who built something out of nothing, who came back from disaster, who kept showing up. They all share one thing in common. They didn't let losing stop them. And that's what this whole journey is about. Sometimes by losing a battle, you find a new way to win the war. Those aren't just words. They're a map. They tell you, when life knocks you down, don't panic. Step back, watch, learn, adapt. Maybe the path you were on wasn't leading where you thought. Maybe the loss was protection in disguise. Maybe you needed to lose that battle to find this purpose. That's the quiet wisdom behind the quote, that every defeat has hidden value. Every setback carries a message. And if you listen closely enough, that message will lead you to something better. In the end, the real winners aren't the ones who never fall. They're the ones who know how to rise. So, if you're in your own battle right now, remember this. It's just one chapter. The war isn't over. Your story isn't done. Take the lessons. Keep your head up. Keep fighting smarter. And don't be afraid to start again, stronger and wiser than before. Because that's how you turn loss into wisdom. That's how you turn pain into purpose. And that's how you win, truly win, the war.